Dave Chappelle is one of the last few great comedians, in my opinion, because he is anti-PC and willing to offend everyone in order to spark conversation on meaningful topics, at least some of the time. Case in point, here's a quote from his Netflix special, Sticks and Stones. Warning, it's not necessarily safe for work. I've censored some of the language, but I think you still can get the gist of what he's saying.
So in that spirit, tonight, I thought I'd start my show a little differently. Tonight, I'm going to do something that I'm not particularly good at, but that I like to do. Tonight, I'm going to try some impressions out. All right, let me get into character. You got to guess who it is, though. Okay, here it goes. Hey, if you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're fucking finished. Who's that? That's you. That's what the audience sounds like to me. That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all is the worst I've ever tried to entertain in my life.
Chappelle was definitely calling out the cancel culture and how it seeks to erase people from the public square when certain views are expressed. Some see cancel culture as a mob mentality, whereas others see it as a long overdue way of speaking truth to power. Politically speaking, both conservatives and liberals have complained that cancel culture has gone too far, and yet it persists. I'm going to explain why I think that it does. Persist, that is. After this word from my sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by Black History Quiz, because it takes more than a month to learn our history. History is not black and white. It's complicated. America was built on slave labor, yet blacks owned slaves as well. The Republican Party was founded to abolish slavery, but today most blacks vote Democrat. And sometimes, just sometimes, African kings marry white. No matter the race, people are complicated, filled with contradictions, and change with the times. To view history through the lenses of today's culture cheats the learner of the full story. Black History Quiz is a newsletter that shares facts you might not have learned in school and certainly did not learn from mainstream media. Black History Quiz educates, sparks debate, and often puts history in a brand new light. Visit blackhistoryquiz.com and subscribe to the weekly newsletter. No matter your perspective of history, you will not be disappointed. blackhistoryquiz.com. So what exactly is cancel culture? Well, dictionary.com defines cancel culture. Well, dictionary.com defines cancel culture as the popular practice of withdrawing support for public figures and companies after they have done or said something considered objectionable or offensive. In other words, someone says or does something that is offensive to someone, and this turns into a widespread boycott of that person's work. Here are two recent examples. Robert Uanu, the CEO of Goya Foods, announced a massive donation of their products to food banks across the country. He also praised President Trump. During his remarks, he noted that Trump was a builder like his own illustrious grandfather and called for Americans to pray for their president. This triggered a boycott initiative by some in the Hispanic community. To quote CNN, in an interview today, Uanu said he was not apologizing and called the boycott movement suppression of speech. Uanu claimed a double standard in the reaction of his laudatory remarks about Trump, noting he accepted an invitation from Michelle Obama in 2012 to an event in Tampa, Florida, to promote the former First Lady's healthy eating initiative. You're allowed to talk good or talk praise to one president, but you're not to another? When I was called to be part of this commission to aid in economic and educational prosperity, and you make a positive comment, all of a sudden that's not acceptable, Uanu told Fox News. If you're called by the President of the United States, you're going to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, no thank you. I didn't say that to the Obamas, and I didn't say that to President Trump. Here's another example. In response to Black Lives Matter protests to defund the police, there has been outrage over the positive depiction of police in popular media as off the air. This sentiment even affected children's programming. The New York Times reported on outcries to cancel the kids show Paw Patrol. Here's a quote from them. Paw Patrol is a children's cartoon about a squad of canine helpers. It's basically a pretense for placing household pets in a variety of cool trucks. The team includes Marshall, a firefighting Dalmatian, Rubble, a building construction worker, and Chase, a German Shepherd who is also a cop. In the world of Paw Patrol, Chase is drawn to be a very good boy who barks stuff like "Chase is on the case," and all in a police pup's day, as he rescues kittens in his tricked-out SUV. But last week, when the show's official Twitter account put out a bland call for black voices to be heard, commenters came after Chase. Euthanize the police dog, they said. Defund the Paw Patrol. All dogs go to heaven except the class traitors in the Paw Patrol. It's a troll. It's a joke, but it's also not. As the protests against racial justice violence enter their third week, the charges are mounting against fictional cops too. Even big-hearted cartoon police dogs, or maybe especially big-hearted cartoon police dogs, are on notice. The effort to publicize police brutality also means banishing the good cop archetype, which reigns on both television and in viral videos of the protests themselves. Paw Patrol seems harmless enough, and that's the point. The movement rests on understanding that cops do plenty of harm. The same cancel culture spirit is also, unfortunately, in the workplace. The first time I witnessed it, I was not really aware of what I was looking at. Listen to this partial quote from Golden Girl Finance. It says, where does it say? Yeah, it says, in 2012, Adam Mark Smith, CFO of a medical device manufacturer in Arizona, was fired after this video of him haranguing a drive-through worker at fast food chain Chick-fil-A about the company's anti-gay bias went viral. Here's a clip from that infamous video.
Well, I'm waiting in line. I'm next in line. I'm pretty excited about my free water. I also see like a group of 30 college-age students over there. I'm wondering if they're doing a sit-in. I'm so excited I might just join them. But let's see what happens with my free water, and I think I might just say a few words too. Let's see. Here I go. Hey, how you doing?
Fine.
Good. Is this my free water?
It is.
Awesome. You know why I'm getting the free water, right?
I do not.
Because Chick-fil-A is a hateful corporation.
It's my pleasure to serve you always.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm glad that I can take a little bit of money from less money to hate groups.
Well,
Have a great day.
We're always happy to serve everyone.
I don't know how you live with yourself
Anything you
and
need.
work here. I don't understand it. This is a horrible corporation with horrible values.
We're here to
You
serve
deserve
you
better.
in any way that you need.
You deserve better. Rachel deserves better.
Ouch, more than awkward. The quote from Golden Girl Finance continues here after the company's anti-gay bias went viral. Yeah. By the following day, his company had received hundreds of messages, including bomb and death threats from the public demanding his termination. Smith, that was the guy on the video, was fired and spent the following 2 years struggling to find work and living on food stamps and eventually leaving the industry. End quote. Since then, there have been several examples of people losing employment because certain people did not agree with their viewpoints. The website Reason reported on how a museum curator was forced to resign over his remarks that were arguably not racist at all. Here's a quote from Reason. Until last week, Gary Gorels was senior curator of painting and sculpture at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. He resigned his position after museum employees circulated a petition that accused him of racism and demanded his immediate ouster. Gary's removal from the museum is non-negotiable, read the petition. Considering his lengthy tenure at this institution, we asked just how long has his toxic white supremacist beliefs regarding race and equity directed his position curating the content of the museum. The accusation that Garrell's choice as an art curator are guided by white supremacist beliefs is a very serious one. Unsurprisingly, it does not stand up to even minimal scrutiny. The petitioners cite few examples of anything even approaching bad behavior from Garrell's. Their sole complaint is that he allegedly concluded a presentation on how to diversify the museum's holdings by saying, quote, "Don't worry, we will definitely still continue to collect white artists," end quote. Garrels has apparently articulated this sentiment on more than one occasion. According to Artnet.com, he said that it would be impossible to completely shun white artists because this would constitute reverse discrimination. That's the sum total of his alleged crimes. He made a perfectly benign, wholly inoffensive, obviously true statement that at least some of the museum's featured artists would continue to be white. The petition lists no other specific grievances. Sometimes it's not what you say that offends the cancel culture movement, but how you say it, even if you are in agreement with them. Case in point, Reason also reported on the fate of David Shore. A week ago, as protests over the unjust police killing of George Floyd took place in major cities across the country, Shore, a 28-year-old political scientist at the Democratic consulting firm Civic Analytics, tweeted some observations about the successes and failures of various movements. He shared research by Princeton University's Omar Wasow, who has found that violent protests often backfire, whereas non-violent protests are far more likely to succeed. The liberal one. He feels progressive reforms are more palatable to the public when protesters eschew violence. But many progressive activists on social media didn't care whether the impulse was liberal or even whether it reflected reality. They denounced Shore as a racist for daring to scrutinize the protesters, even if his aim was to make them more effective. One activist accused Shore of using his anxiety and intellect as a vehicle for anti-blackness. Then she tagged Civic Analytics and invited the company to come and get your boy, end quote. Get him they did. Civic Analytics promptly fired Shore. And one more example. Everything old is new again when it comes to being offended. Take, for example, Neil Golightly. He lost his job over sentiments he expressed over 3 decades ago. Here's a quote from Reuters. Boeing Company's communication chief, Niall Golightly, abruptly resigned on Thursday following an employer's complaint over an article the former U.S. military pilot wrote 33 years ago, arguing women should not serve in combat. According to an excerpt on the U.S. Naval Institute website, the December 1987 article titled "No Right to Fight" said, "At issue is not whether women can fire M60s, dogfight MiGs, or drive tanks. Introducing women into combat would destroy the exclusively male intangibles of war fighting and the feminine images of what men fight for: peace, home, family." Golightly told staff in an email seen by Reuters on Thursday that the exclusion of women at the time was government policy and broadly supported in society. It was also wrong. To some people, these actions are borderline insane in a country where free speech is sacred. I think there are various reasons why this phenomenon is happening, and that they can all be boiled down to political and psychological advantages. From a political standpoint, the partisans of cancel culture are using the threat of job loss and other sanctions to bully people into social and political conformity. Why? By blocking the free exchange of ideas, they are able to win ideological arguments by preventing them in the first place. Yet, I see this wave of thought policing as being even more insidious than that. It is also a means of self-gratification at the expense of others. Narcissism at its finest. Rob Henderson, a PhD student at the University of Cambridge, alludes to this in his Psychology Today article, 5 Reasons Why People Love Cancel Culture. I highly recommend reading this article. Here are a couple of points from his piece. Cancel culture increases social status. The most powerful motive underpinning cancel culture is social status. Research reveals that sociometric status, respect, and admiration from our peers is more important to our sense of well-being than socioeconomic status. Furthermore, a recent study found that a high school class predicts a greater desire for wealth and status than a low social class. Put differently, it is those who already have status and money who have a stronger craving for status and money relative to other people. For many affluent people, that drive is how they got to their lofty positions in the first place. Aggravating this drive is that they are typically surrounded by people just like them. Their peers and competitors are also affluent status maximizers. They are constantly seeking new ways to either move upward or avoid slipping downward. For social strivers, cancel culture has created new opportunities to move up by taking others down. Further down in the article it reads, cancel culture reduces the social status of enemies. Plainly, if there is an activity that will elevate the status of oneself or one's group, people will do it. One approach to elevation is to do something good, but doing something good requires effort and the possibility of failure. Fortunately, another option exists: broadcasting the bad behavior of others. This method works because social status is relative. One person losing social rank is the same as another person gaining it. If you're a 6 on the social status ladder, working up to a 9 is hard. But scheming to bring a 9 down to a 3 is easier and more thrilling. It is much easier to unite people around bringing a 9 down to a 3 than to lift themselves up from a 6 to a 9. Additionally, people are slow to give moral praise for a good act and quick to assign moral blame for a bad one. The difficulty of doing something good and the prolonged waiting period to receive credit for it is why cancel culture has flourished. It offers quicker social rewards. Indeed, research shows that people engage in moral grandstanding to enhance their social rank. Like so many others, I think the cancel culture movement has gone too far. I look forward to a day where civil debate, a free exchange of ideas, and a collective acceptance of diverse thought is the norm. Alas, the cynical side of me agrees with two quotes that I read recently. The first one from the website Daily Wire, and it reads like this. Sadly, it's reasonable to assume that cancel culture and its wild arsenal of accusations of racism, sexism, and privilege will infest the average American workplace wholesale soon. Worse, signaling amid the protests will only enable such accusations. As companies like Apple, Amazon, and Starbucks insist on pursuing their cynical brand of woke capitalism, views and opinions that exist outside the title progressive narrative will be summarily dismissed. Companies simply don't want to risk their bottom line over bad PR. Oh man, that really resonates with me. Okay, another quote from Time, much shorter. In an age when companies have detailed information on customers' ages, incomes, and political persuasions, they're calculating that these socially aware consumers are more lucrative than those who might be put off by social justice campaigns. End quote. In other words, like so many ills of this world, it comes down to the money. As soon as supporting cancel culture becomes too much of a financial liability to corporate giants, then change will come. Why does it take that to remove this scourge? What happened to principled beliefs? I guess they were left at the bank. You have been listening to the Things I Think About podcast. If you love what you heard, hate what you heard, or don't know what you just heard, I want to know about it. Drop me an email. I can be reached at Jim Stroud, that's JimStroud, @jimstroud.com. So, until next time.